everyone. My name is Dr. Kronk. I'm going to share something with you very, very quickly here, just to kind of introduce and get everybody off to a good start tonight. I hope everybody's doing good. Let's talk about what is tonight's topic. I do a lot of these talks and webinars, and I spend a lot of time, for those of you that don't know me, I'm the CEO of Spinal Kinetics. We're bringing in innovations to the spinal ligament testing market. We're not like softwares. We're not like the individual softwares that providers can use in the market. We spend all of our time actually developing and making sure that we can measure the support ligament damage that's associated with support ligaments, spinal ligaments. When those support ligaments get damaged, they're very problematic. I also have a program where I train doctors across the country on these conditions. I do a lot of attorney presentations. I do a lot in the spinal injury market, and I get asked a lot by providers, do you teach us how to fix these ligament injuries? And my answer is always no. I stay right with the teaching of how you work them up, how you document them. Working them up is so rare. Good workups in the market is so rare today. Most providers do not work these up very well, and they make really kind of crucial errors in working them up. But that's not the topic of tonight's conversation. What I get asked a lot is, okay, what do you do for treatment of a ligament injury? Now, I know what I would do. I know what I would do in clinic, but I've had a number of providers come to me probably in the last year, talking about SoftWave, talking about, I have tried shock waves before, and I'm not trying to say or sully anybody's technique or procedures. But one of the things I kept asking is, can your system get deep enough to treat these ligament injuries? Because these ligament injuries are the #1 cause of chronic pain and disability. Anybody that's in a car accident, anybody that's hurt at work, has a very low possibility of a full recovery, very low. I could put up statistic after statistic. Many of you have seen my statistics. I teach doctors to talk about these statistics. These statistics reflect two things. The primary thing that they reflect is that a spinal workup, there's something missing in the spinal workup. That's why these stats are so bad. These are not bad patients. These are bad doctors. These are reflective of really bad rehab. That's what these are. That's what these stats are reflective of, right? So I do my part by trying to show in the space how to work up these ligament injuries, how to actually make a doctor be super, super high level. I don't care if you're talking to the top hospital administrator, the top neurosurgeon, you're talking to another chiropractor, you're talking to an insurer, you're talking to an attorney, it doesn't matter, right? Because the condition is the condition. Now, because of the poor, we'll say, diagnostic workups, I take it from that point of view, low back is the leading cause of chronic pain and disability in the country today, and actually in the world today. Neck pain is the 4th leading cause, and headaches are the 6th leading cause. Headaches, cervical spine and lumbar workups are so insanely easy to work up. They're always, unless there's some sort of an infection, a cancer, or something else caused by a ligament condition. Now, these conditions are extremely expensive. So if a person goes through an injury, they go through a work-related injury, or they go through an auto injury, and they come out with chronic low back pain, the American Pain Society says it's going to cost them $9,000 to $19,000 per year. So a lot of chiropractors minimize this condition. Oh, it's not really that bad. It's not really this bad. The environment does not minimize it. As a matter of fact, the statistics, if you can actually treat this and you can get this to resolve, you're a hero in the market. You can build as large as you want to, and you can build as wide as you want to. You can have as many clinics as you want to, okay? Because the statistics I showed you show what you're competing against. U.S. Pain Foundation says if you have chronic pain, you're going to spend $7,700 more per year. Remember, on this low back, if you're on the 19,000 side, that's 190,000 over 10 years. That's not Dr. Kronk saying that. That's these clowns over at the American Pain Society, one of the top medical societies in the world. That's what they say. Now, the American Headache Society says if a patient has migraine headaches, most commonly due to ligament conditions in the cervical spine, they're going to spend $8,900 more. So when I started to talk, had a provider, Dr. Harcourt's on the call today. He started talking to me, and he was the last one. He was this was sort of the domino effect for me. He was the last one to tell me about SoftWave. Hey, you got to speak to Glade Tuckett. You got to speak to Dr. Didiro. And I'm fortunate enough to have both of them on tonight. And I'm going to have Dr. Didiro take over and start to talk to you, because what I said is I want somebody who can really explain this particular system, this particular therapy. When I heard about it, I was like, okay, I would have this in my clinic. It's not something I wouldn't have in my clinic. But I'm that kind of person. If I thought there was something that I had that could seriously cause me to improve chronic pain results and minimize the patient's risk of that in trauma, I'm all in. I'm going to do whatever I can. So, Dr. Didiro, you're on, correct?
Yes, sir. How are you, Dr.
All right,
Fong?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. I'm really, really happy to have you. I know that some of the providers that are on tonight may not know you, so I'm going to kind of let you should be able to, let's see if you should be able to share your screen. And then I want you to show the doctors on here anything you want to show about this technology. I want to take about maybe 30, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
go. I mean, you and I have talked. The setup is, hey, listen, ligament injuries. That's the main thing people are interested in, is ligament injuries, but it doesn't have to be. It can be, other things as well.
All right. Well, thank you. And first and foremost, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your network of wonderful doctors. And as you know, I'm a chiropractor, 28 years. And shout out to Dr. Gary Harcourt and Glade Tuckett, as well as helping put this together. I fell into this about 6 years ago, but I fell in love with the predictable patient outcomes. And tonight I'm going to show you a little bit how this won me over. And the amount of science that's out there, I think will also, that we'll share with your doctors tonight, and will help them navigate how there's really no other medical device on the planet like this. So can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I'm going to start with here. This is a presentation I did to the Toby Institute, Orthobiologic Institute in Florida. I was one of their speakers last year, and I'll be on their docket this year. But SoftWave Tissue Regeneration Technologies is really a third generation lithotripsy. The same technology they've used for the last 40 years to break up kidney stones, they've been able to repurpose this and utilize it for a multitude of different type of conditions. So, one of the things that I want to talk about is, 28 years as a chiropractor, my first 12 years in practice, I was a strict chiropractic biophysics doctor. And my focus was on correction of the human frame. And I saw the damaging issues from car accidents. And they were, it would be 2 hours to 2 weeks to 2 months to 2 years after the fact. We never knew, right? And I used to tell my patients, the force of that impact that could crush metal and steel gets transferred through you. And I always felt that was one of our toughest things to work with when it came to documenting these patient injuries. I'm going to go through this today rather quickly, and there'll be times to answer questions afterwards. Okay. So
Right at the end.
The one thing, and I'm very grateful to Don Harrison and Dee Harrison, who taught me so much about the physics and the engineering behind the human spine. And we all know from the front, the vertebrae should stack one on top of the other. But really, he created that ideal spinal model. And something that was pointed out to us in 1996, the Spine Journal came out with a supplemental issue and said that worldwide, our trauma centers and ER centers are losing the battle when it came to diagnosing, plus also having a treatment to help with soft tissue injuries. And in fact, that 2 years after a motor vehicle accident, 20% of injured participants were still at a moderate to severe pain level, with VA's S scores of 6 to 8. And they also said, they called out to the brightest people in healthcare at the time, we need a better way to diagnose soft tissue injuries, as well as an efficient form to treat with them. I mean, you guys know, and I'm preaching to the choir, but 33% of whiplash injuries go undetected. And if you don't, in a triage, if you don't have a bone sticking out or you're not bleeding, they're going to send you home. And most of these people that are involved in car accidents, it becomes, a short-term issue becomes a chronic long-term issue. So that was the biggest thing that I saw in private practice for the last 28 years. And fast forward to 2017, and just so you guys know a little backstory of me, but I had a 350-pound patient that fell off a table in 2006, and I grabbed him and it dislocated my right shoulder and tore ligaments in my wrists. Just like that, I went from who's who to who's that to who cares, right? And you quickly, you got to be nice to the people on the way up because you see them on the way down. And, I lost who I was as a chiropractor for 3 years and 2 surgeries. And my shoulder surgery was a complete success, but my wrist surgery in 2007 left me in pain every waking hour for 10 years. And it was tough. I could no longer adjust with my right hand. I couldn't ride a bike. I couldn't swing a golf club. It took away any type of extension. It was killer. I scoured the earth for a decade. I was functional rehab co-director at Life University from 2007 to 2009. I had over $250,000 worth of cold lasers, ultrasounds, and medical equipment at my feet, and nothing could help my wrist. 6 years ago, my brother-in-law, my wife and brother-in-law actually went to high school with our founder, John Warlick, and my brother-in-law wrestled with him and dragged me up to Kennesaw, Georgia, where I got my first treatment. It was a 3-minute treatment, and John Warlick kept telling me, now, if I run this over normal tissue, there's no pain. But as soon as I get to a bad area where there's inflammation, arthritis, or poor circulation, even torn ligaments, there's a biofeedback component where you're going to be like right there. And I was like, okay. So 3 minutes, and it was like hell. And it was painful. And I swore. And I remember him saying, the more pain you have, the better clinical outcomes. So I kind of sucked it up and I went through it. And when it was done, it was like, dude, where's my pain? I couldn't believe it. And it was for 2 days, I was pain-free. I came home, I told my wife, I said, I actually think that this is what the placebo effect must feel like, because I just couldn't believe this constant companion that I'd had for 10 years was gone. And I mean, I'm showing you this slide because growing up, reading Mad Magazine in the back, there was always this X-ray vision thing, right? And it seemed like, after 22 years in practice, I felt like this was the tool that I was searching for. And after 2 more sessions over a 10-day period, I was 90% better. I bought a device and I didn't have to use it on my wrist for 14 more months. So this technology really has a diagnostic component. It checks all those boxes that Spine Supplemental Journal talked about back in 1996. Because even professional sporting teams are using this. The Chicago Cubs and Cleveland Guardians, they'll scan players once a month. They'll check, pitchers' shoulders, elbows, and wrists. For the catchers, they do low back, knees, and shoulder. And again, they're looking for little issues before they snowball out of effect. The neatest thing is that within 3 or 4 minutes of a treatment, I know if that patient's a candidate, because if I scan a chief complaint and I can't trigger any hot spots or discomfort, then they're not a really good candidate for this. Does that make sense? So these are supersonic sound waves that, we see in nature every day in the form of lightning bolt thunders, but also in supersonic jets. If you're just breaking the sound barrier, that's 765 miles an hour. Because this spark gap technology is created in water, it magnifies it times 5. So these supersonic sound waves that we're generating electrohydraulically are traveling 3,355 miles an hour and can penetrate the depth of a soup can into the body. They're working on a cellular level that I'll show you that that's using a term called mechanotransduction. This is a short little video that kind of explains it, and
The 3 common treatments for pain, pills, cortisone, and surgery, are either ineffective, invasive, carry massive side effects, or all 3. Non-invasive SoftWave technology offers better results and faster healing with little to no side effects. Backed by 46 patents, SoftWave's same-day 10-minute procedure uses supersonic sound waves to increase cell membrane permeability and recruit and release the body's own repair cells, thus activating our natural innate healing mechanisms to provide lasting pain relief. So patients heal faster, feel better, and experience life pain-free, without drugs, surgery, or shots.
That's our calling card. And that's what I want you to understand. That is our 30-second elevator pitch. There's plenty of different types of devices out there in the market, but not all of them are generating supersonic sound waves. And what you see on the left is really our fingerprint of our technology. That high pressure followed by low pressure creates this positive tensile force, and then followed by a negative tensile force. The one you see over on the right is more like a pressure wave or a ballistic device that pounds. It has a metal stylus and it pounds on the tissue. It can penetrate into superficial tissue about 5 dimes. The treatment area is actually that circumference of the dime, where ours is penetrating the depth of a soup can, and the bottom of that soup can is literally the treatment area. So I can treat a hand or foot in 3 minutes. I can do a knee or shoulder in 4 minutes. I can do a low back in 5 minutes, and I can do the entire spine in about 8 minutes. This is all the different devices together. The red one is ours. And even in the international shockwave community, they're now differentiating between true supersonic, and that's kind of like a piezoelectric or electromagnetic or electrohydraulic. Okay, the radial pressure waves or an ultrasound is a sine wave. It doesn't get enough of that high pressure, low pressure. And that positive pressure, it's like when you're standing on the ocean and the water hits your legs. That's really strong. It can almost knock you off your feet. When the water sucks back into the ocean, that is the negative force, and that is creating the shearing force on the actual cell membrane. And we are showing multiple studies that show we help shear off exosomes, extracellular vesicles, as well as messenger RNAs. And I'll get into that. We have over 24 papers that show we activate stem cells within 45 minutes. 12 of those are animal, 12 are human studies. This is what I'm talking about. You can see that high pressure, low pressure, and this is where it's working on a cell membrane. And you see on the right, the top picture is the cell membrane in the resting phase. And you can see inside everything you need, the nucleus, the mitochondria, all that. At that high pressure point is when the cell membrane is actually compressed. And then during that negative tensile phase on the bottom, where it goes under the x-axis, that's the expansion of the cell membrane. And in normal, healthy cells can deal with that compression and expansion. This has antimicrobial and antibacterial effects because those have lipid membranes and they can't withstand pulverizing supersonic sound waves. So we have pictures of before use on chronic wounds and then 10 minutes after, and that bacteria is gone. So this is an important concept to understand because there's no damage to the tissue. Lithotripsy has been used for 40 years, 40, with an 85% success rate. The FDA labels this as a non-significant risk factor because there's minimal to low side effects. This talks about the physical, chemical, and biological effects. I'm not really going to get into all this, but it's really exciting because it activates certain things within the vascular endothelial growth factor, VEGF. You see an increase in nitric oxide and vasodilation, so you get angiogenesis. You'll see later we have a class 2 clearance for tissue regeneration, and it decreases apoptosis and necrosis, as well as decreases inflammation, which I believe is the main culprit where pain is coming from. So inflammation is really the silent killer. Here's the therapeutic effects that shows pain relief, anti-inflammatory, helps modulates toll-like receptors 3 and 4, induces the endogenous growth factors. And I think why the cardiologists are so excited is because it works with progenitor cells, which are very close to the stem cells for the internal plumbing of our cardiovascular system. And they're the repairmen of our body. So these are just some of the things that we're seeing in our studies. We have over 133 peer-reviewed studies. Our company has spent over $25 million over the last 16 years on research and development. We have partnered with the Austrian workers' comp system, and they have helped really fund a lot of our studies. In 11 years, in 13 trauma centers in Austria, they've estimated that we've saved 70 million euros in non-healing fractures. What makes our device so different is our parabolic reflector that allows this supersonic sound waves to penetrate the depth of a soup can into the body. This is producing true shock waves. And this is a really good animation of the depth of penetration. And basically everything you see in that cylinder is a positive biological effect. Isn't that cool? And we've seen this on different models. Yes, everybody nod up and down. Thank you. There's a lot of confusion in the marketplace. Everybody wants to say, oh, we're just like SoftWave, but we're $10,000 cheaper, $5,000 or $20,000. Again, we have different versions. We have hospital grade, we're at the UCLA Trauma Center. We're at University of Pittsburgh Medical Center in their neurosurgery department. Dr. James Bradley, who's the team physician and private orthopedic at UPMC, he has it in his orthopedic clinic, as well as with the Pittsburgh Steelers or with the Dallas Cowboys. and Miami Dolphins, 5 NBA teams, 3 Major League Baseball teams. There's 2 different types of probe. 98% of the ones are the yellow, which is called unfocused. What makes us different from the lithotripsy is because we are low intensity or lower energy. We're only 1 through 16, where the ones to break up kidney stones are 16 to 40 in energy level. And we are unfocused, meaning that yellow probe, everything inside that yellow cylinder is a treatment area. The blue probe above is used more for non-healing fractures and in trauma centers, as well as urology departments. We're at Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Harvard, Baylor, University of California, San Francisco, San Diego. We are Class 1 registered to help decrease pain and improve circulation, but we have a Class 2 clearance for activation of connective tissue. As you all know, doctors, connective tissue is the fabric of life. It's the matrix of everything from bone to nerve to adipose tissue. We actually have 48 patents, and one is on peripheral nerve regeneration or acceleration or elongation of neural tissue. We are now getting paid in the Medicare system in a multidisciplinary clinics for wounds, diabetic ulcers, and burns. Our CEO, John Warlick, made a prediction that this technology would help thousands of people avoid amputations. Anybody that's interested, I can send you the Marcus study. It was done right in Smyrna, Georgia with Dr. Marcus. She is a specialty clinic for wounds. She had 11 patients that were scheduled for amputation that agreed to participate in a 6-week program. Once a week, SoftWaves for 6 weeks. There was one person, because of health reasons, had to drop out of the study, but 10 of the people that finished, all 10 were able to avoid amputation. It's called the Marcus study, and it was in the Stem Cell and Regenerative magazine. This is a perfect example of a chronic ultrasound wound. A chronic wound that had been there for months. These type of ulcers can lead to osteomyelitis and further amputation. As you can see, that person had already had 2 of their digits amputated, and they were looking at a below the knee amputation if this wasn't successful. And you can see over the 6 weeks how that pressure ulcer healed. The MRI to the right is a female, and she had a non-healing talus that was for 4 months not healing. And Dr. John Mullins at Piedmont Hospital, he actually delivered 4 treatments over 5 weeks. And you can see the post-MRI shows the fractured healed, okay? There's literally now thousands of studies over the last 30 years. I'm proud to announce that the United States now leads the world in studies. A big shout out to Dr. Tom Liu and his team at the University of California, San Francisco. He is a world-renowned urologist, and his team is publishing 10 to 15 studies per year. And they are responsible for really the first to show that we activate stem cells within 45 minutes. He has 2 of our devices, and Dr. Liu also holds a patent for organ regenerative technologies. You heard that right. He believes in the next 7 to 10 years that dialysis will become a thing of the past, okay? And I know these are bold claims, but I'm just repeating what some of these amazing researchers have been showing us. Again, Class 2 clearance to activate connective tissue. Again, improved mitochondrial function, increased angiogenesis, and we see neovascularization 10 to 12 weeks after. I love talking about Johannes Hofeld, world-renowned cardiologist who has performed 67 bypass surgeries and used our patented technology right in the OR on the open heart, and even 1 year later showing 10% improvement of left ventricular ejection fraction. Why is that important? Well, in the history of mankind, there has never been a cardiac regenerative type therapy until now. And I coined him the Elon Musk in cardiac thoracic, because Elon Musk is they make up new words, the way he creates the ludicrous mode and all these other things. And Johannes Hohlfeld's doing the same thing. His team out of Innsbruck, Austria, is also responsible for showing that our technology is specifically working with our innate immune system and activating toll-like receptors 3 and 4 that help modulate inflammation, okay? And what we noticed, the wow factor from patients after the first or second sessions is, I believe we're downregulating inflammation and giving the body time to repair, recover, and start the regenerative process. Again, it's used in men's and women's sexual health. I have no other way to say this, but it improves range of motion. It's like WD-40 for those tired and arthritic joints. It reduces pain levels by 50% in 3 sessions. The average person that comes into my ATL Pain Institute, our research center here in Atlanta, they come into the VAS of 8. And after the 3rd visit, they're down to 4. And after 6 weeks, they're down to a 2.5 on the VAS. Even 1 year later, they're holding that 2.5 for VAS. So again, antimicrobial, antibacterial. At this point, you should be like, the Duro sounds like somebody from a Saturday Night Live commercial. It slices, it dices, it's a floor wax, it's a dessert topping. You know what? I know it gets a little crazy. It's almost too good to be true. I've written a couple articles about that and how we have a red flag that steps up and says, no, 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 this can't be happening. But the more you dig into the research, and I've made it my life the last 6 years to study this research and really become an educator and share the light with other doctors. Any type of itis, any type of tendinopathies, plantar fasciitis, epicondylitis, arthritis, this works really well with. And again, we have orthopedic, physiotherapy, sports medicine, traumatology, bone repair. I think the thing I love the best is our annual research symposium. And they're usually in Europe. And we have 200 doctors from all over the world that come to this one city. And we have all these different specialists, trauma surgeons, orthopedists, cardiologists, urologists, neurologists, chiropractors, physios, all together in one spot, promoting this technology and really with one mission: to end pain and suffering for millions of people without drugs, cortisone injections, or surgeries or joint replacements. Again, we're in some of the top teaching facilities and universities in the world. We're also with like I said, the 15 NBA, 15 professional sporting teams, Tottenham Premier Soccer in the UK, as well as Manchester, that is now has a demo device. This is Dr. Martin O'Malley, foot and ankle specialist for the NBA and the NFL. He's got 2 of our devices for the last several years and just added a 3rd. I want you to hear from him.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Martin O'Malley. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I practice at the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. And also I'm a team physician for the Brooklyn Nets, the New York Giants, and for USA Basketball. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about our experience with the SoftWave technology from TRT Technologies. We first purchased our machine back in 2014, so we've had them for about 8 years. We started with one, but because the demand became so great, we had to purchase a second one, and we're quite happy with our results. I practice with 2 other orthopedic surgeons. We are all team doctors for different professional teams, and this is our office. And I'll show you our machines. So we go down to our office, and this is the most common thing that we use on a daily basis for non-operative care. It is the SoftWave technology. The machine is pretty compact. It's easy to use. We can dial up the power on it, on the millijoules. It's the medical assistants or the PAs are the ones who actually perform the SoftWave. We indicate the patients. They come back often on the operating room. The patients will have a whole list of shockwaves. We have shockwaves today. We have 5 shockwaves or 6 shockwaves. Pretty easy to use. A foot pedal, and you can dial the intensity to what indication you have. We've had great experiences. We see a lot of plantar fasciitis, a lot of Achilles tendonitis. Those are our 2 main indications for, but any of the tendinopathy is very effective for. Also, because we have foot and ankle, we have some diabetic patients, we have diabetic wounds, and actually it's approved by the FDA for diabetic wounds. We've had some really remarkable studies for wound healing. You have to put a sterile cover over it, but in order to recruit stem cells and form new stem cells, the TRT technology is really good. The biggest advantage is really the SoftWave technology. Because it's SoftWave, it's more diffuse wave, the patients can do it without anesthesia. Even though there's a CPT code for it, insurance doesn't reimburse for it, but we have no problem getting the patients to pay for it. The patients are very willing to pay to get better, and especially for technology that works. We published a study back in, I think it was 2020 in the Journal of Foot and Ankle Surgery, using SoftWave unfocused technology, medium intensity for plantar fasciitis, and we had 85% success rate. So we're very happy with it. It's really part of our daily practice here at Sports Foot and Ankle. And I'm not sure how you can practice in 2022 as a sports medicine physician without using some sort of shockwave technology. It has a tremendous number of randomized control studies showing the technology works. And compared to the other devices, I think the TRT device is the most user-friendly and the most effective. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Good afternoon, my name is Dr.
Sorry.
Martin O'Malley.
Hey, Matt, we have Dr. Grosso that's raised his hand here for some time. He's got a question.
Sure. Go ahead. Can you read it to me?
Matt, why don't we take the questions when you're done? We'll take.
I'm almost done. I got 2 slides left, and
Then we can answer. Then we'll go into any questions the doctors have.
Perfect. You know, this is just like the stem cells clinics that were popping up. Those were consumer driven. And the more your patients find out that this technology is available, the more they want it. Let's face it, they're sick and tired of possibly accidentally overdosing on narcotics. And it happens. And, you know, we're coming out of this pandemic, but we can't forget that we're still in the midst of the worst epidemic our country's seen in 110 years. And literally, you know, we have 1,000 people per week dying from prescription drug overdoses every week. So this is effective. It's same day, little downtime, a 3 to 5 minute procedure. You know, it's proven, it's FDA cleared to treat diabetic foot ulcers, activation of connective tissue, treatment of 2nd-degree burns, pain reduction improved. It's fast, it's effective. I mean, not only does it get your patients well, and you can take care of more of the tougher cases, but you can actually keep them and become financially stable. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'm in a multidisciplinary clinic in Atlanta. I've got 2 medical doctors that are my partners in a interventional center, and as well as 4 chiropractors. And we used to have a procedure room where we did epidurals and cortisone injections and radio ablations for personal injury patients. And literally, the first 3 years of having this, from 2017 to 2020, that business, our interventional doctors were like, hey, I like your device, and it's good for patients, but it's bad for my business. And that's good. I don't want patients, I don't want doctors to start with the most invasive, most expensive things. On the algorithm of healthcare, we start with the least invasive and less expensive. You know, this is really a productivity and profitability increasing system. And, you know, in the close to 600 clinics that are now utilizing the protocol that I created called Less is More, when you combine this with a good digital marketing program, these doctors are making an extra $27,000 per month on top of their already successful clinics. Again, it's cash-based for us. Take it from me, who in 2013, we had clinics that were 95% insurance-based. And 10 years later, we are now 64% cash-based. And we've almost done a complete 180. So you know, it works. We're only tapped into the really 0.5% of all chiropractors. I consider them the pioneers, the early adopters. And I've made a bold prediction in 2019 that you'll see two types of clinics in the future: those who have SoftWave and those who don't. And the ones who don't will become antiquated like a flip phone from 2008, which were pretty cool. But you know, you could text with them, but they weren't smartphones. And this has a smart technology. The fact that it has that diagnostic component as well as a healing mode makes it one of the most versatile devices that we've seen in our lifetimes. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing. Does everybody, please, if you have, yes, sir.
You want to take down that contact information, take a picture of it with your phone, you know, write down the number. If you have questions, you want more information, this is the contact information. And go ahead, Matt, if you want to go ahead and you can knock down and stop sharing.
Okay. All I wanted to say was, you know, this, if you have clinical questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now. So first clinical question is, does it work on lumbar disc problems? Any studies on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I feel that for decompression clinics, this partners with, we're in some of the largest decompression centers in America. We are working in combination with chiropractic decompression in this. I mean, it's a secret sauce. Inflammation is really the main culprit for where these patients, especially post failed back surgeries. If you listen to the neurosurgeons or the orthopedists, they say, oh, your pain's back after 8 months or 4 months or a year because you're developing scar tissue. Well, scar tissue is really the inflammation, and it's layers like onions. And this literally will melt away that scar tissue. And I've seen it in hundreds of patients. So yes, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 3 × 10. It magnifies the effects of how the body heals. It accelerates the body's healing ability.
Perfect. Another one up here, can it be used on fractures from osteoporosis?
I believe in the future, this will be, I have personally used it on compression fractures. The reason why Dr. Martin O'Malley bought it back in 2014 was because his 13-year-old son had a non-healing tibial plateau fracture. And after looking at all the studies, he reached out to us and bought it. And once he fixed his son, he started using it in all his tough cases. He has 3 devices, one in the OR that he uses right after surgery. When Kevin Durant ruptured his Achilles, he literally used this for 3 minutes on the suture and on the plantar surface of the foot, and then for the next 3 days of recovery.
Okay. All right, doctor. So at this point, you have probably one of the top experts in the country, and that's what we try to bring on when we do these. So you can unmute yourself. If you have a question, ask away. You know, whatever question that you might have, just unmute yourself and ask. Now's the time. You don't get Dr. Doduro and Glade Tuckett. These guys are not somebody you just jump on a phone call with, right? They're busy. They're busy dealing with their clinics. They're busy with the innovation of the technology and spreading the technology. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask whatever question is. No bad questions here. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I
Doc.
have a question. I mean, I'm just grateful to have Dr. Harcourt on as well, and he comes from a long line of chiropractors in his area of southeastern Pennsylvania, I believe. Dr. Harcourt,
Yeah.
let's hear it from you a little. I mean, what have you noticed over the last 2 years?
Well, I'm very excited that this webinar is going on because you two are my mentors. And I first came involved with Matt Doduro with SoftWave after doing several months of research. I had to come to a conclusion, and I thought, I got to make a decision somehow, some way. And Matt shared a lot of this information. It all made sense, but it's like he said, it sounds too good to be true. So I called 10 chiropractors across the country, and I asked them, how long have you had the device? Does it do what they say it does? And would you buy it again? Every one of them said, yes, 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 yes. And it's amazing. So I thought, okay, I'm doing it. And I can't tell you how great it's been for my practice. Half my practice now is chiropractic, half of it's SoftWave. And I've been interacting with Dr. Kronk and Chrissy and their people for about the past year. And I've been taking different webinars on PI from different people. And what I realized was, most of the really good stuff I was exposed to was from Dr. Kronk. So that is when I signed up with his program. And I told him or Chrissy, for a while, it's just like, I'm too busy. I don't have time for this. The reason I was too busy was because I was doing so much SoftWave. I just didn't have time putting something else on. And, but honestly, these two are leaders in their field. They're passionate about what they do. And it's like a match made in heaven. It really is. It's a match made in heaven. So I'm so glad you guys connected. And for anybody that is, looking for devices, there's a lot of other devices out there, but this is like the cream of the crop when it comes to healing with SoftWave.
And you know what? After 35, 40 years, 28 years, I've seen so many of the docs I know on here. We get PTSD of dealing with, these sales guys and these medical device and decompress, and they promise you the sun and the moon, but these things never live up or never are implemented properly. Gary,
Yep.
Dr. Gary, 2 years later, would you say some of these predictions I made a couple of years ago to you, have they lived up to their expectations?
Absolutely. There's only 20 of these machines in the state of Pennsylvania, 20 of them. I have 2 of them. I have 1/10 of the machines in the state, and I didn't buy a second one because they are not cheap, but they pay for themselves. They pay for themselves. It's an investment. It's not an expense. It's an investment.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Beautiful. Any other any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So you can't actually bill it for like personal injury and stuff. So it's mainly a cash thing, or is there? Yes.
Is that a question or a statement? Because I've got
Well, it's
700
kind of a question.
Well, there is a code
You
01.
said I heard them say they couldn't bill it, so that's what
I'm sorry. Dr. Martin O'Malley does not bill insurance except for wounds, burns, and
Okay.
post-surgery. But we do
Okay.
have a code 0101T, and my clinic has been billing personal injury for this for 5 years on attorney lien, and we get paid. And we are starting to see a sprinkle of Geico and State Farm that are starting to pay for this. And soon they're going to have to.
Progressive, they're paying.
Progressive, you're right, Progressive. And Gary, Dr. Harcourt, he gets paid by VA. Tell him that story quick.
Well, the VA, up until 2.5 years ago, they didn't pay for anything in my office. But thank God, now they do. People can come in, get referrals from the VA, and they consistently pay for this on every veteran. It's amazing. And now a lot of my auto patients are getting coverage. And if they don't, if I'm working with an attorney, I'm looking for payment through their settlement. But those are the only ones. Let me just say one other thing. I have one other girl. She came in, and I have a video testimony on this. She's an adjuster for a auto carrier, and she's been through everything, like everything. And she came in for SoftWave, and this is like the only thing that's ever helped her. And so now she had a little flare up, so she's coming again, and she goes, "Well, I want to see if my insurance will pay for this." So we're billing it to her insurance. She is a bulldog, and she will push that and hopefully get it covered. But it's the only thing that's ever helped her for like years. So anyhow, eventually they will cover it. You know why? Because they'll save thousands of dollars. That's why.
That's right. Dr. Cronk, you said, I think your estimates were for back pain, insurance companies spend $19,000 a year. Is that correct?
That was the American Pain Society's low back guidelines stating that's what the annual costs are average in the United States.
Guess why the Austrian healthcare system is made this essential in 13 of their trauma centers? Because they are addressing the most expensive conditions first. I haven't even told you about the spinal cord injury study that's going on since July of 2019, but they have a national health mandate in Austria that if you have a spinal cord injury, that you have this treatment performed within 72 hours. These are spinal fractures, because we all know about trauma. 9% of the time after an injury, you could have that paralysis almost immediately, but 91% of paralysis comes within several hours to days after the injury. And what the trauma surgeons are using this in Austria is they're using it right on the spinal cord injury, the fractures, and their goal is to help reduce hematoma. The hematoma is what cuts off, or the anastomosis of the blood supply to the spinal cord, and that's where you get permanent, irreversible damage. So think about a small country of 7 million people, and if you have a handful of quadriplegics or paraplegics a year, it can bankrupt your healthcare system. So they're addressing the most expensive conditions first.
Interesting, really interesting. Okay, doctors, any other questions?
Matthew, what about pain associated with small fiber neuropathy?
Dr. Simons, hey,
Yep.
that's what my clinic is in Atlanta. I mean, I was past president of Neuropathy Treatment Centers of America. My brother, Dr. Joe DeDuro, he created that in 2006. So one of the reasons I brought this into my clinic was specifically because we had probably 10% of the people that walked in there were just too far gone. And then 15% of the people who went through our protocols were not getting better. So when I started bringing this into my clinic, I used it on the worst of the worst patients. And all of a sudden, half of them started getting better. And I have studies, and you're welcome to ever come to my clinic in Atlanta. But we found that, with our basic neuropathy treatment protocols that have been in place since 2006, that we had a 20% improvement in sensory nerve function after basically 10 weeks. With this device, just adding it once a week for 3 weeks, we now see people 6 weeks, 12 visits instead of 20 visits. And their average improvement is 35% sensory nerve improvement via the Toronto Clinical Scoring Test. So it's nearly doubled with just 3 sessions. So I was sold on it, and I started using it with every patient after we went through these studies.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one other question. If we were going to do it in combination with like chiropractic and rehab exercise the same day, is it better to do it before the treatment and stuff, or after it, or not at all on the same day?
The chiropractic adjustment is a little traumatic, so I like to use it after as a recovery and repair. But I mean, I have a lot of doctors who use it before as well. I personally, because this is such a powerful, intelligent energy that we're putting into the body, I don't like to complicate it with anything other than decompression or adjustment on those days. We still use cold laser, but we don't, it's almost like too much information into the body if you overload it, and you don't really need it.
Right.
So we're using cold
Right.
laser more for our maintenance and patients that are out of acute care. But great question.
Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Curtis Martin is on the phone as well. He owns 4, 3 in California and 1 in British Columbia. I don't know if he has time to come on. There he is. I saw you.
All you
This-
got to do is
There we
unmute.
go. I can click on. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, I've had the device for, I guess, over 3 years now, and have implemented it in my subluxation based practice. And I agree with, I've had some personal experience about having a bad back injury for multiple discs. And really, I agree with Dr. Kronk 100% that ligament instability is the true reason why you don't hold the adjustment, but also I was left in a lot of pain. And so the first time I tried SoftWave 3.5 years ago, I had a 50% reduction in pain, but also learning and generating protocols that I've done for my clinics. We've been able to show with stability with people's backs, getting them to restore to their, activities they love to do, because that this technology brings that so much more blood flow in around the ligaments. So specifically in the lower back, you can target after the acute disc has been, taken care of with the inflammation phase. You can go in and start working on those annuluses and bringing in more, because they don't have that direct blood flow. That's the whole problem. But this will bring that circulation, that at intensity to that disc, to those cells. And I've seen stabilization happen much quicker. And then obviously that, with proper nutritional support to help those ligaments start to grow back. And then it really preps the area nice for those bad ligament tears to get stem cell injections. And that's what I got as well. And of course, the cell signaling from this machine is just off the charts. So if you want to, stimulate those exosomes to really help that ligament heal, I've been very, very impressed. And that's why I have 4 devices. And now I teach implementation and development of SoftWave into high-end offices, and it's been very rewarding to see the outcomes. Just great miracle stories on a regular basis.
Good.
Thank you. The one thing you reminded me something, Dr. Martin, there is, we notice tensegrity, improved strength in especially patients who have maybe a grade 2, 50% tear in their ACLs. They will notice improved stability for 2 to 3 days after a treatment.
100%.
And I believe that tensegrity will also work in the spinal ligaments. And I'm excited to utilize this more in the personal injury world.
Perfect. Okay, doctors, anybody else got a question?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so with personal injury, I had this lady, she had an auto accident 30 years ago, left scapular pain for 30 years. She's done everything under the sun. And she saw my Facebook ad. Like Matt said, with advertising, these guys know what they're doing. So she says to her husband, I think I'm going to go try this. And he was not supportive at all. He said, you know what? You've done everything. Everybody says you got to live with it. Why are you wasting your money on this? But she says, I'm going to go try it. So she came in. We did it. After 8 sessions, she has no pain at all. None. And it's like, well, if we helped her now, we could have helped her 30 years ago, except the machine wasn't invented yet, and I didn't have one. But for Dr. Kronk and his program, now we can diagnose it and we can treat it, which is amazing. So we're starting to implement more SoftWave into our PI cases. And it's just such a service to have these two together to help our patients. It's amazing.
Perfect. Thank you. Hey, Dr. Dodaro,
Yes, sir.
throw back up your contact information one more time. Just share your screen one more time.
Okay.
just so it's on the screen, doctors, if you have a question, you can still ask a question, but I want them to have that contact information at 801-477-5042. You can speak with Glade, obviously at joinsoftware.com. And I highly recommend that if you have questions, you're looking at this, like I said, when I started, after I started looking into it and after I spoke to Dr. DeZero for probably, I don't know, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, what he told me and the level of utilization and who was using it and what it was doing, I was like, all right, that's a no-brainer for me in my private practice, simply because, I got a chance to, who was the doctor that is the implementer for large clinics that just spoke? Was it Matt as well?
Yes.
Okay, Matt and I would have been, the two Matts would have been, I would have known both of them. I went, okay, great. Because I'm a person that says, if I'm going to do something, I didn't start out this way, but I am this way today. If I'm going to do something, I want to find the best person who actually is using what they say, who's doing what they say that they're doing. And I want to find the best so I can shortcut all the noise. I don't want the noise. I don't want the trainer of the trainer of the trainer of the trainer. I want to go right to the source. And what I'm telling you, what I'm really happy, Dr. DeZero, that you did with us tonight and with Glade Tuck, it is you're getting to the source, doctors. These guys brought and have expanded this in the United States. Dr. DeZero owns the rights to the United States. He was so sold on the technology that they have the rights to the development of the United States. So you're dealing with the top line people. Take advantage of that, call them. If you have questions, they'll answer your questions, I'm sure. So doctors, if there's no other questions, and if there are, just pipe up.
I've got a quick question from a billing standpoint.
Sure, Monty, go ahead.
So with in regard to the 0101T code, I've heard some arguments made that's for high energy shockwave or a focused shockwave, whereas if I understand this correctly, SoftWave is more of an unfocused or radial low energy shockwave. So
You're so close, Monty. It's we are unfocused and we are low intensity, so no anesthetics used, and we are probably 1/10 of the strength of the hospital grade.
Right.
But what we found is our engineers did our energy level 1 to 16 because they found that between energy level 3 and 16, it was anabolic or regenerative in nature. Anything 17 or higher actually becomes catabolic. So the 0101T, you have to be careful in your computer systems or your billing systems because sometimes they're pre-populated and it will say that. And I actually got audited 5 years ago when we first started doing it. It said, basically under anesthetics, and we were using a different code at the time. But we have since fixed that, and you do have to check it in your billing software that it doesn't generate as high intensity. It is low intensity, no anesthetics needed. You don't have to be in an OR setting, and we get paid. We get paid with health savings accounts. We get paid with flex spending. And I just got a $5,000 check for a patient that went through this for a series of 12 treatments. So you get paid. And again, it's an attorney lien, but the attorneys are now sending people to me because 10% of those patients out there, and you know how these lawyers and these medical doctors, they want to run up the tab and do injections and epidurals, and next thing you know, you got $28,000 in injections. Well, 10% of the population does not want needles, and it's even more since the pandemic. So they are sending them to us specifically because we have a non-invasive treatment, and we're still going to bill out, $5,000 to $7,000 in this care. And if they want to come audit me, they can come look. I mean, the results speak for themselves.
And I guess that was the basis of my question of when you bill an auto carrier, if you've had any issues with utilizing the 0101T code. Long story short, them coming back and saying, well, wait a minute, that's a low energy unit, not a high energy unit. That once again.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's screwing it up is the people that have a radial device that are buying $5,000 units and then trying to bill them under a low intensity. It's called creative coding, and it's illegal.
Okay.
Illegal. And I have, over 20 years in compliance as well. So I'm not getting paid by the state farms. I've had a few payments trickled in, but they don't want to pay. You know how it is, guys. But the more and more we have it, the more they'll pay.
You appreciate it.
So I have a doctor that says, hey, looking at SoftWave TRT website for providers in New Jersey, when I go to their website, none of them advertise SoftWave as a treatment option. What do you think? I'm not sure. You might know what that means, Dr. Giro. I don't actually know what that means.
Well, we SoftWaveTRT.com, we do have a provider search. Most of these, I mean, let's face it, chiropractic is probably one of the best kept secrets in healthcare. And I don't care how good an educator you are or marketer, unfortunately, only 11% of the population will even come in and see you as a chiropractor. So that means 89% of the people in your community, it's not in their Rolodex. So yes, we sometimes build it. We market this under a different name. SoftWave is the main one, but we were on the show, the doctors, and they called it the stem cell machine. So because they looked at the papers. So doctors are marketing this differently. I was the first to market it as what's called stem wave therapy. That was that's what a lot of patients and patients are attracted to. But don't be fooled by a Turkish device that's tried to steal that name. So I hope that answers everything. Oh, what is the average fee? Don Walsh just asked a good question. For a 3 to 5 minute treatment, it's anywhere from $75 to $175 amount, depending on the amount of pulses you use, as well as the coverage area you're working on. So I would say the average treatment's about $150. The average care plan is about 8 sessions. The average care plan is about just under $1,200. And if they prepay, it's just a little over $1,000.
And I got a question that says, does the software have financing available?
Absolutely. SoftWave has right now a third-party lender, and Glade can get into a little deeper, but it's 0 money down, 3-month deferred payment. And we created a 90-day challenge. 55% of my doctors are able to pay this off in the first 90 days. So we'll give you an extra $1,000 towards your trip down to visit us or whatever you like, if you guys are able to collect that. Chiropractors are wonderful at documenting daily, weekly. What we're noticing, I call it the golden goose. It seems like every day this is open, we're open, we get an extra $1,200 golden egg that plops out of this machine.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Any other doctors?
Yeah. Matt,
Yeah, sir.
can you expound on the Turkish machine? Because quite frankly, I was concerned that Dr. Kronk may or may not be in the right camp, and he needs to be in this camp. So can you expand on that at all or not?
Yeah, absolutely. We just had, it was our digital marketing team that actually went rogue and violated confidentiality integrity agreements, non-disclosure agreements, and they felt like they would like to bypass international trade commissions, and they're bringing in a inferior device. I like to call it the Yugo, and they are placing this. It has not been cleared by the FDA or in the European Union. It's sold mostly in the Middle East for erectile dysfunction. And I just feel like, the doctors who have bought it and maybe saving $7,000 on it, unfortunately, they're being pulled into a patent infringement as well as a trademark issue. We have 25 doctors that are now part of that because they went with the wrong company. And again, we spent $10 million to get class 2 clearances. We have 48 patents that we're going to protect them, and we're going to protect our doctors in that area from an inferior device coming in that's built in Turkey.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Doctors, if there's no other further questions, Dr. Dodaro, I really appreciate you coming on. Glade, I know we didn't hear much from you. Appreciate you helping this. Gary, same thing. So doctors, if you have questions, contact these guys. And because I'm going to finish by saying this. If there's a question, I mean, one of the things I do is teach doctors how to be different in the market and how to go out and get relationships and break up relationships, break up old existing. Okay, these guys have been doing the same thing for 20 years, using the same doctors, using the same procedures. They got a mill type situation, how to break those relationships up. And one of the things I teach the doctors is that the attorneys' offices are loaded with people that are not getting better. Now, I say they're not getting better because they have a poor diagnosis, and the doctors that are working with them don't understand what it is that the true injury is. But the other thing I teach the doctors is that that is a very difficult patient for the person. Everybody thinks that that's an easy patient for the patient to resolve with the attorney. It's not. It's not. Because the attorney can't get that client enough money to make the client satisfied. So that's a downer in their referral business. So if you can help to clean out their office, you can get these cases where they actually get treated and resolved quicker. They will love you. And so it's just a way to create more business in your personal injury practice. Anyway, I'm going to let everyone go. Dr. Dodaro, thank you. We'll talk soon. Gary, thank you. And doctors, thank you very much for taking the time and giving us your attention tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.